"Ma'am, are you Myra Alvarez?" I looked past the two officers standing in my doorway and saw my father near the squad car, pointing at me like I had robbed him. My mother stood beside him, crying into a tissue. "She changed the locks," Dad shouted. "She's hiding what belongs to the family." One officer raised a hand without looking back. "Sir, stay where you are." My fingers tightened around the doorframe. "Is this about the $5? The officers exchanged a quick glance. 4 days earlier, I had sat at my college graduation with 3 empty seats beside the aisle. I had saved them for my parents and my little brother, Lucas. I kept turning every time the doors opened, waiting for my mom's floral perfume, my dad's heavy steps, Lucas complaining about the parking. No one came. Then Dad texted me, "We need $2,400 for your brother's 18th birthday. Send it by Friday." So I sent $5. The note said, "Happy birthday." That was the first time in my life I told my parents no without explaining myself. The morning after I sent it, my apartment felt wrong. Not destroyed, not messy, just touched. The kitchen drawer was open by an inch. My desk chair was angled toward the window instead of pushed in. A folder from my bottom drawer was lying on the floor, even though I always kept it tucked under my tax papers. I stood there in my cap and gown dress, still hanging from the closet door, and whispered, "No, no way." Then I ran downstairs. The magnetic lockbox under the stairwell was empty. The emergency key I had given my parents 2 years ago was gone. By noon, every lock on my apartment door was changed. The landlord thought I was overreacting, but he still sent maintenance. I paid the fee without blinking because something in my stomach had gone cold. Now, hours later, police were at my door. One officer kept his voice level. "Your father says you're withholding money that was promised for your brother." "I never promised anything," I said. From outside, Dad yelled, "She's lying. She thinks because she graduated, she can treat us like strangers." My mother cried louder. "We just wanted her to help her brother." Help him. Not come to my graduation. Not call me afterward. Not ask why I had walked across that stage alone while other families screamed and clapped. Just help him. The officer looked back at my parents, then at me. "Can we step inside and talk?" I opened the door wider, but blocked the entrance with my body when my father started marching up the walkway. "You are not coming in," I said. His face changed, not anger first, shock, like he couldn't understand how a door with my name on the lease could close against him. "This is family business," he snapped. "She doesn't get to hide behind locks." The officer moved between us. "Sir, stay outside." For 1 second, my father actually obeyed. And that was when I realized the locks had done something bigger than keep him out. They had made him explain himself in front of witnesses. I stepped back into my apartment with the officers, leaving my parents in the hallway. My graduation cap was still on the kitchen table. The tassel hung over the edge, gold numbers catching the light like a joke. One officer glanced at it. "You graduated this week." 4 days ago, I said. My phone buzzed on the counter. Then again. Then again. I looked down and saw the family group chat exploding with messages. Before I could open them, my father shouted from the hallway, "Ask her where the folder is." My hand froze over the screen. The officer turned slowly toward him. "What folder?" The officer looked from my father to me. "What folder?" he asked again. Dad's mouth tightened like he had already said too much. "Her financial papers. She keeps everything together, bank stuff, school stuff." I stood in my own living room, with 2 strangers in uniform between me and my parents, and felt the floor tilt. "How do you know that?" I asked. Mom appeared behind Dad in the hallway, dabbing at her face. Myra, please don't make this ugly. I almost laughed. You called the police. Dad jabbed a finger toward me. Because you forced us to. No, I said. You missed my graduation and then demanded $2,400. His eyes flicked toward the officers. We had things going on. That was the same kind of sentence my mother had used 2 days earlier. Don't start drama. We had a lot going on with Lucas. I could still see myself sitting on the edge of my bed after the ceremony, makeup wiped from one cheek, calling Mom 7 times. On the 7th call, she answered in a whisper. Mom, where are you? Not now, she said. Then the line went dead. An hour later, I saw the tagged photo. Lucas at a party supply store, grinning beside silver balloon numbers shaped like an 18. My parents stood behind him, looking tired but present. Present for him, missing for me. I turned back to Dad. You told me you requested time off. I did. Then where were you? Mom whispered, Myra. I opened my photos and held up the screenshot. Lucas, balloons, my parents. The timestamp, 30 minutes before my name was called on stage. One officer leaned slightly closer. Dad's face reddened. That doesn't prove anything. It proves you were able to show up somewhere, I said. His voice dropped. Do you really want to do this in front of police? I looked at the officers, then back at him. Do what? Dad stepped closer to the threshold. Explain what you owe us. My phone started vibrating so hard against the kitchen counter that one officer glanced over. At first, I thought it was Lucas. It was. It was everyone. Aunt Rosa, Myra, shame on you. Cousin Alina, you couldn't let him have one day. Grandma, please don't punish your brother. The family group chat was moving faster than I could read. Messages stacked on top of each other, each one making me look less like the daughter whose graduation had been ignored and more like the villain who had ruined an 18-year-old's birthday. I opened the chat with shaking fingers. Then I saw what Mom had written hours before calling the police. Myra offered to cover Lucas's party after graduation. She said it was her way of giving back to the family. I read it twice. Then I looked up at her. You told them I offered. Mom's crying changed. It got quieter, controlled. Dad snapped. You did offer. You just didn't use those exact words. I sent $5. After promising more, he said. The officer's pen stopped moving. Do you have that promise in writing? Dad didn't answer. Outside the apartment, a door cracked open. Then another. Mrs. Han from 2B peered into the hallway with her little dog tucked under one arm. Across the hall, someone lowered their TV volume. Dad noticed the audience and raised his voice. She thinks she's better than us now, he said. College does that. She's been waiting for a reason to cut us off. I stepped into the doorway. You missed my graduation, I said, loud enough for the hallway to hear. For party decorations. Mom's face hardened through the tears. It was just a ceremony, she said. He only turns 18 once. The hallway went still. Even Mrs. Han stopped petting the dog. I turned my phone toward the officers and showed them Dad's message. We need $2,400 for your brother's 18th birthday. Send it by Friday. Then I showed the $5 transfer. Happy birthday. The officer looked at Dad. Sir, where is the evidence she agreed to pay? Dad pointed past me, into my apartment. She keeps it in that folder by her desk. The officer turned slowly back to me. How would he know what folders you keep in your desk? How would he know what folders you keep in your desk? The question landed harder than anything my father had shouted. Dad's face twitched, because she's my daughter. That is not an answer, the officer said. I looked past him at my desk. The bottom drawer was closed now, but I could still see the folder in my mind, lying on the floor that morning like someone had dropped it in a hurry. The drawer was open, I said. Yesterday morning, after I sent the $5. Mom shook her head quickly. Myra, stop. And the emergency key was missing from the lockbox. Dad scoffed. Parents don't break into their own child's place. I stared at him. Then how did you know where my folder was? For once, he had nothing ready. Then I remembered the hallway camera. My landlord had installed it after packages started disappearing from the stairwell. It didn't point straight at my door, but it caught the landing. I grabbed my phone and called him on speaker. Mr. Patel, I said, keeping my eyes on Dad, can you send me the hallway footage from yesterday morning? Dad stepped forward. This is ridiculous. The officer blocked him with one arm. Sir. Mr. Patel's voice crackled through the phone. Police are still there. Yes. A pause, then I'll send it. While we waited, Mom's crying turned into tiny, uneven breaths. She kept looking at Dad like she wanted him to fix something he could not touch anymore. My phone buzzed again. Lucas, just pay it so they stop freaking out. I read the message out loud. One officer wrote it down. Then the video arrived. I pressed play. There was Dad, walking up the stairs with the emergency key in his hand. Mom stood behind him, watching the hallway. Dad unlocked my apartment door and went inside. 12 minutes passed on the timestamp before he came back out. The officer took the phone from my hand. Sir, he said, voice colder now, why did you enter her apartment? Dad swallowed. She was acting unstable. We were checking on her. I looked at Mom. What did he take? Her lips trembled. Don't, she whispered. The officer closed the video and turned toward my father. Sir, this is no longer just a family dispute. The hallway went quiet after the officer said that. Not peaceful quiet. The kind where everyone understood something had crossed a line. My father looked at the phone in the officer's hand, then at me, like the camera footage was somehow my fault. I had a key, he said. She gave us a key. For emergencies, I said, not for searching my desk. Mom pressed the tissue against her mouth. The second officer asked, what were you looking for? Dad folded his arms. Proof. Proof of what? That she could help, he snapped. That she was choosing not to. There it was. Not that I had promised. Not that I had stolen anything. That I had money, and they wanted it. The officer looked at my mother. Ma'am. Mom's shoulders dropped. We already booked things. Dad turned on her. Stop talking. But she kept going, staring at the floor. The hall deposit, the DJ, the catering. Lucas told everyone it was going to be big. Her voice cracked. We thought Myra would cover the rest after graduation. I said, you thought. Mom finally looked at me. You always helped before. That hurt more than yelling. Because it was true. I had paid a winter heating bill when Dad said Lucas was cold. I had covered Mom's prescription copay when she sent me a photo of the receipt. I had paid Lucas's school fees, bought him shoes, sent grocery money during finals week, and never once asked when anyone would show up for me. Then Dad said, after everything we gave you, this is how you treat us. I looked back through my open apartment door. My graduation cap was still on the kitchen table. Behind it was the desk he had gone through, the one where I had filled out scholarship forms at 2 in the morning because nobody at home knew how. You couldn't sit in a chair for 2 hours for me, I said, but you could break into my home for money. Mom reached toward me. Myra, we made mistakes, but you embarrassed us. I stepped back before her hand touched my arm. No, I said, you embarrassed yourselves. Dad's jaw worked. We sacrificed for you. You gave Lucas a party, I said. I gave myself an education. The first officer handed my phone back and asked if I wanted to file a report for unlawful entry. Dad laughed once, sharp and fake. She won't. I do, I said. His face changed again. The power went out of it slowly, like air leaving a tire. The officers took statements. They documented the false claim about stolen family money. Dad was not dragged away in handcuffs, but he was warned to leave the property, told not to return, and informed the footage could be used in the report. The emergency key came back from Mom's purse. Mr. Patel changed the lockbox code that same night and emailed me the video. Before I blocked the family chat, I sent 3 things. A photo of my graduation row with 3 empty seats. Dad's text, we need $2,400 for your brother's 18th birthday. Send it by Friday. And a screenshot of him unlocking my apartment door. For almost a minute, no one replied. Then Aunt Rosa wrote, you told us she offered. After that, the messages changed. Cousins deleted comments. Grandma called me crying and said she should have asked me first. Lucas messaged me angry at first, saying I had ruined everything, but later admitted Mom and Dad told him I had promised. The party fell apart. The venue kept part of the deposit. The DJ canceled. Relatives stopped sending money once they realized they had been lied to. Mom sent apology texts with little excuses folded inside them. Dad sent nothing. That was fine. His silence was the first honest thing he had given me all week. For 30 days, I blocked both of them. After that, I allowed email only. No calls, no visits, no emergency keys, no surprise requests dressed up as family loyalty. A few weeks later, I framed my diploma myself. I hung it above the desk my father had searched through. That night, 2 friends from work came over with cheap takeout and a grocery store cake that said congratulations Myra in crooked blue icing. No one made speeches. No one demanded money. No one called the police. We ate cake off paper plates under my diploma, and for the first time, my apartment felt like mine. No one came to my graduation, but by the end of that week, everyone knew exactly why I stopped opening the door.